one of the times that I was smoking weed as a teenager, my mom caught me. I gave her some explanation and she said, you know what? You write me a report. I did not like my experience in high school. I also felt it was too limiting and I just wanted to hustle. I worked for cultivation, delivery, got exposed to distribution, and I even worked at an analytical cannabis testing lab. Just seeing like the merger of like big tobacco with cannabis companies, like it's very interesting. Like I feel like those cannabis or the tobacco companies know their inevitable decline.
We have Maha Haq on the show right now. This is a special guest because you're the first person from the cannabis industry, and I try to keep the guests diverse, so we get people from just mostly self-made people. So it's a lot of the time you get entertainers and athletes and musicians, but also sometimes we get entrepreneurs, and you're an entrepreneur in a very interesting, different kind of business. And it's something that resonates, I think, with a lot of people in the Netherlands, because we have this whole stigma about Amsterdam of it, being the first place where marijuana, cannabis, everything was decriminalized,
right?
And now the rest of the world's following. So, yes, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you. I'm doing great. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm doing fantastic. Yeah, no, it's a good day. Google's been lying to us. They've been telling us. It's going to be raining for 1.5 weeks, but it was actually really nice weather today. So, yeah.
Oh, well, it is very sunny out here. And I love that you brought up that, cannabis that like has been very prominent in the Netherlands, specifically Amsterdam, where you are at, and how all of us out here in the US, even California being the most popular market out here, follow suit of the Netherlands. So it's very interesting to be connected with you, to even hear some of your experiences on your end, how cannabis has been progressing there. Because, there's all these cafes and spots you can smoke at. And, it's been such a struggle out here in the US to get the cafes and smoking spots up and running. So that's, of course, a topic I'd love to talk to you about very soon.
Yeah, no, interesting, and I'm always looking like further as well with the guests I have. Like I always, try to maintain relationships with them and stuff. And like I figured out this podcast has become like quite a great networking tool, actually. Nice. And who knows, what comes out of it. I just think like the link between. I'm pretty sure. Well, I don't know. Have you been to Amsterdam before? And I'm sure you have. I have a feeling you have.
I have not been to Amsterdam just yet. I haven't. I have to. I have to know how the cannabis culture is there, because it's vast. It's very mature as well compared to out here. That's what I hear. Even in terms of research, there's a lot more activity in the Netherlands compared to out here. Like just in the U.S., there's so many restrictions in general. Even though cannabis is slowly getting legalized state by state, it's still quite far behind compared to what you guys in the Netherlands are up to. So I have to visit someday, and I'll take that as an invitation from you.
Of course, no, that absolutely, for sure. And I hope that at that point I'll be able to connect you with some people as well. So it's not that I'm too well versed in it, but I mean I'm sure I'll be able to get there.
Yeah, we all love weed.
I guess I don't think about it too much. It's just so normal in our culture that know. So I myself, I'm not a user really. I used to be a lot, and
oh, nice.
I mean, coincidentally, yesterday I have because I was thinking, this interview is coming. I'll do some research, even though that's just an excuse. So, but and so it's just so. I have it when I go back to, and this is interesting too, because you're also you're multicultural. Me too. I actually I'm half Jordanian, so half Arabic, and I grew up there. So those are very clashing cultures in terms of when it comes to this kind of thing, how did you? So first of all, I wanted to mention all your credentials and everything that you've been doing before we really get into this. So you have set up the Canna Club. So that's like a cannabis community sort of in universities, correct?
Yes, yes,
And
it's a registered cannabis student organization, a nonprofit.
mm-hmm. And you've just graduated. Congratulations of
Oh, thank you.
medicinal. Wait, was it the University of Maryland? Okay, School of Pharmacy.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
University of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maryland School of Pharmacy.
And the
Just
first
got
in their
my
cannabis program.
master's there. Yes, yes, just got
Okay.
my master's from their first pharmacology program focused on cannabis sciences. So, yeah, very, very interesting to be part of like the first program,
Mm-hmm.
studying cannabis because, of course, there's some hurdles and some ups and downs, but hopefully more schools start picking a similar curriculum up. But going back to Canna Club, it's such a vast network now. We're in 26 universities now
Mm-hmm.
across 14 states out here. So we have about 5,500 members. All young people, motivated, ambitious. Students who want to get into the cannabis space. Our three pillars are education, advocacy, and opportunity in the cannabis space.
Mm-hmm.
So our education bit is we do classes, seminars, and informational panel events, and typically they're free, so we can allow our students to come in with any without any problems.
Right.
And it's open to the public too. So, anyone from your end, if they wanted to take a class with us, they're all available and open to the public. Our advocacy portion is more so discussing the reparations for the war on drugs, concepts in social equity. So,
Mm-hmm.
discussing what happened to the Black and Brown communities out here in the States, through reefer madness and the stigma associated with cannabis, how it was used as a vehicle of oppression for the Black and Brown communities. And then our last part, our last pillar, opportunities, we connect our students, even our alum, with jobs in the cannabis space, and vice versa. We connect cannabis companies with top tier students from top tier universities. So
Okay.
yeah, so like
So you're sort of
that's Canna Club in a nutshell.
awesome. You're sort of paving a way for just this new industry. So you're like a trendsetter in that sense, and just
Oh,
opening up more to a yeah, opening up more as a legitimate profession. Because you know I see it as like this is just this sudden huge gap in the market that suddenly arrived. This multi-million, maybe billion-dollar industry
billion, yeah.
that that just suddenly exists out of nowhere and needs it just creates job opportunities and vacancies, I can imagine. But it's also such a strange one because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that is illegal in more than half of the world. So
Yeah,
yeah, how do you
exactly.
see that? Like, how do you see it growing?
Ooh. So when it comes to like at least the states out here, the discussion behind federal legalization is a common one. People are estimating when it will happen, when all the states will legalize it, because right now there's 35 states out of the 50 states that have cannabis legal to some extent, whether it's
Hmm.
medically or recreationally, but there are, remaining states that have it completely illegal, or illicit rather. And, there's no progression of cannabis in those particular parts of the country. But with federal legalization, some people are saying it'll happen in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So there's no clear pathway yet. There's a lot of buzz, but there's also the discussion of rescheduling. So cannabis is a Scheduled One substance, which is the worst or the most the highest level that is treated with the highest level of scrutiny. So people have even said it might get rescheduled to Schedule Two. But what that means is big pharma will have to step in. It's all regulated by
Mm-hmm.
the government. Essentially, you don't have these businesses running on their own under the state. It's all businesses that would have to be run by under the authority of the federal
Hmm.
regulatory authority. So there's a lot of buzz. There's no clear pathway, but there are two outcomes: either rescheduling or federal legalization in several years.
It's it's a tough little seesaw because I just see. this business booming and a lot of entrepreneurs such as yourself like coming out with in your case also these dispensaries and finding other creative ways to go into it. CBD is huge now. It's getting marketed by a lot of sports organizations and athletes as well. It's just completely accepted because it's great for recovery. And that's something I'm very interested in trying, so I'm getting into as well. um,
Yeah.
but now you have the government wanting to butt in, and I wanted to ask, well, I mean, we're gonna get to that. I just wanted to actually let's
Yeah,
start from the
yeah.
beginning. Yeah, exactly. I just see myself getting carried away to like the eighth point maybe on this thing, but we'll get there for sure. Um,
Yeah.
what was your first what was your first experience with
Oh.
cannabis, and why did you get intrigued by it?
Oh man, that's a very, very loaded question, but I love answering it.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I'm like, and I was like any other teenager experimenting with substances. I wasn't a big fan of alcohol, and I
Mm-hmm.
of course tried smoking weed when I was a teenager. But one of the times that I was smoking weed as a teenager, my mom caught me. And my mom
Oh.
is an immigrant, and she is from Pakistan. So yeah,
Shit.
she was extremely strict, and when she caught me, she was she was quite upset, but she's a clinical researcher at a cancer hospital out here, and she was really curious about cannabis in general just because she heard it a lot of her cancer patients were using it.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of like reprimanding me or yelling at me or even beating me, she asked like, why am I doing this? Like, she's like, you're not at a party, you're not with friends, like why are you smoking alone right now in your room? So I kind of laid down some of the points as to why I wasn't feeling well, or I was like, I gave her some explanation, and she said, you know what, you write me a report, give me medical journal citations, you need to show me why this is, an okay thing that you're doing. She said, I won't allow you to do it until you're 18, but tell me why, and we'll see. So I was scared, like, oh, okay, all right, I
Oh,
don't want to get
yeah, I can
grounded, I got to
imagine.
write a report. I wrote her like a 20-page report, I put all these citations, and when I presented it to her, she was very impressed, and she said, this is a proper journal, like you've done like a proper literature review of why cannabis is not harmful. And she was so impressed to the point that she invited me to the hospital that she works at. I was volunteering there too,
Mm-hmm.
and she told me to talk to some of her patients that are interested in cannabis. And I was I was actually a high school dropout at the time, and I set up a presentation for the first time. I was 17, and a few patients showed up. I and two doctors. They showed
Hmm.
up, and I explained about cannabis therapeutics for cancer patients. I talked about how it's helpful for patients dealing with chemotherapy, how it can help them reduce symptoms or side effects of chemotherapy. And it was a very impressive thing for my mom to see. I was
Mm-hmm.
already being a bad student, being a bad kid, but she saw a passion like develop in me from that point. She truly sparked
Yeah.
my interest and motivated me to look into something that is otherwise taboo, especially, in that immigrant household, being a first generation American. It's like, already there's the pressures of trying to fit in both sides and playing a balancing act. But,
Yeah.
you know, her being an academic, she truly like, encouraged me to look at it from the perspective of an academic, of a scientist. And I did. Like I that was, that set forth my career. I immediately got a job at a dispensary as soon as I turned 18, at a medical dispensary. And of course, during those times, it was the wild, wild west. There was no, there were no solid regulations in place for cannabis
Like
at
people
that
thought you were a
time.
glorified drug dealer, basically.
Exactly,
That's what it
but
was.
my mom did support me, and she's the only family I've got. So like it was very good to
Hmm.
have her support, and it's what set forth my career, and I didn't get in trouble.
That's a first. First of all, the fact that a non-Western parent didn't get you in trouble for that. Like I have experiences with that.
Right.
But second of all, just it basically threw you into your calling without you even knowing. Like you didn't know.
Yeah.
You're probably just doing it recreationally, just having fun. You didn't really do it for any other benefits, right? That you, I'm pretty sure at that age you didn't weren't
Yeah,
aware of
at
it.
that age, I wasn't focusing too much on the benefits. Like, I
No.
wasn't like I did notice, like back then, like I was getting like sick a lot. Like I was getting the cold or the flu a lot, so I wasn't eating too
Hmm.
much. So one of my friends in high school was like, "Hey, you'll get the munchies if you smoke weed."
Hmm.
So I was really interested in the appetite inducing aspect of cannabis. That was
Yeah,
really the reason why I was smoking, because I wanted to eat more. Like people would ask me like, "Oh, are you anorexic?" And I'm like, "No, no, no. I'm
but
just getting sick too much and losing my appetite." So that's what I told my mom. I'm like, I instead of prescribing me medications like Depakote, that is an antidepressant, but also an appetite inducer. Like
mm,
I didn't need an antidepressant. I just needed an appetite inducer, and cannabis was really the best
it's
option at the
crazy. Yeah,
time. So
I'm with
yeah,
you on that. Like I just don't. It takes a lot for me to reach out to a medicine. Like that's I always try to find other ways, and this is
yeah.
where this why this industry is so lucrative right now. I think. Do you think like if your mom would have just reprimanded you and punished you and everything that you wouldn't be doing what you're doing, or you think that would have ended up happening anyway?
I think I would have still done it anyway. It probably wouldn't have been so academically fueled.
Mm-hmm.
I would have done it from maybe just a single perspective, just the entrepreneur approach, I suppose,
Hmm.
or even just say, "Hey, I just need a job, and I'll do it, and like I'll get a job in cannabis." But my mom like set forth the scientist in me and the
Mm-hmm.
academic in me. Like it promoted me to or it encouraged me to study it rather than just make money from it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's I credit her for the academic and science portion for sure.
And I assume that since you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you were a high school dropout, that means in the back of your mind, you probably always had this idea that you wanted to do your own thing, you know? You wanted to go take your own path. Is that
Exactly.
true? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Like I did not like my experience in high school. I also felt it was too limiting, and I just wanted
Mm.
to hustle. I just wanted to like do some business, like sell things, or like basically that was teenage Maha like 10 years ago. I'm like I needed to sell stuff, but
Yeah.
I think my mom helped ground, like she didn't ground me, but she grounded me. Like she brought me back to earth and said, "You have a lot more potential in like with your academics. Like, fine, you dropped out, but I did end up going to community college and I did transfer to UCLA.
Yeah,
So
that's a big
I
deal.
did, yeah, yeah. I think I did prove to not just her, but to myself, like I should not stray away from the academic component. I should give
Mhm.
myself a chance. And it worked out, going to UCLA was probably one of the best things that happened in my life. That's where I was able to start Canna Club. That is where it started and the movement started, and it's been going for
Mhm.
3-4 years now. So
And you're from
definitely
LA,
like
right? Or you're from California at least.
I am from LA. I was born in Illinois, raised in Texas, and half raised
Oh,
in LA.
okay.
So I did spend
Yeah,
a lot
okay.
of
That
time in different states.
okay.
Yeah.
No, but that definitely worked out, and
Yeah.
um, I think your Canna Club experience sounds like it was your first taste of being entrepreneurial. Because
Yeah.
it's college is way too theoretical. It's always like, especially just actually. I mean, there's definitely here. It's different. Like here, there's a couple of unis that are also practical, but they're also looked down upon more for some reason. Um,
Hmm.
but I think were you trying to figure out a way to make it more practical? Practice your entrepreneurialism while trying to, get this theoretical education.
Oh, definitely. So, like, I worked full time in the cannabis space while attending school. That's what promoted,
Mm.
or that's what made me want to create Canna Club, because I wanted to combine my two worlds, my work life and my school life. It just seemed it seemed like a practical decision, because they were so separated. Like, my interactions at school would be so different with from my interactions at work. So I had consistently worked in the cannabis in a cannabis space, or primarily a dispensary, since 2012. I never really took a break. I was attending school simultaneously. So I just thought it would be fitting to have a space or community within my school where I can talk about my job, talk about my work, and maybe find other like-minded individuals.
Mm.
I didn't expect, Canna Club to be as big as it is. I, intended to create it for the few of us who were working, these offshoot jobs, or doing something entrepreneurial in cannabis,
To
but
like
it
find you
just sort
find
of
your
blew
kind,
up.
for your kind to
Yeah.
socialize together, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
just sort of blew up because there was a lot of interest. There were people who
Hmm.
weren't currently working in cannabis but wanted to. So, of course, we started off as 10 students, and it just blew up to thousands. So, that was something unexpected, but very delightful. But no, I was working all throughout my school. Like, I took a very long time to graduate from school. That's for sure. I attended school mostly full time, but I would do part time during the times I was working full in cannabis. So
Mm.
specifically the transition from medical to recreational, which was passed in 2016 out here in California, but was implemented in 2018. That was a major transition where some of these spots, they had to close down, or they were shut down because they couldn't keep up with the new requirements the state was issuing. So seeing that transition firsthand is when I was allowed to start a Canna Club at UCLA, because
Mm.
they wouldn't allow it before. They allowed it until it became recreational. Before then, it was still, that sort of stigma, like medical legalization is not enough, apparently. But, it worked out. I got to practice my work, my practical education, and then my academic education at once. So it was a good opportunity. It's a good transitionary period.
No, that's very good. It's what's your what's your goal for for the coming year with everything you're doing? Like, what are your big ambitions? Because as you said,
Oof.
and there's this whole stigma I want to talk about. Like when people say I smoke recreationally, it's looked down upon more in
Yeah.
society. But if you say I'm doing it for medical reasons, even though you're doing the exact same practice, essentially, you know, it's fine. Like, it's accepted.
Ooh, Nick, you kind of froze.
Oh, the video is. Never mind. I can still hear
Oh,
you.
you're
Yeah,
good.
it's a
Okay, good.
webcam, I think,
Oh,
but it's being
perfect.
recorded with another camera as well. By the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. No,
Cool.
so two questions to answer them. My goals. Oh man, I've got a lot of goals. So over
Mhm.
the course of 9 years, I've been helping others develop their own cannabis businesses. So I know I didn't really give too much of an overview of my background, but for a couple years, I was doing business license applications, business development in cannabis. I've helped open several legal cannabis businesses in the States as well as internationally. I got to work on projects in South Africa, Uruguay, Portugal, Macedonia, and Denmark. So I've been building businesses for other people, but now I think it's my turn. I would like to
But
have my own legal cannabis business someday. And so
right,
that's, of course, my practical side. And then my academic side is I want to pursue a doctorate. I want to pursue cannabis research and obtain a doctorate in a social science pharmacological subject, and advance cannabis research. So
is
that answers your first question.
yeah, no, but so that's a loaded one too, because
Yeah.
now how did you start? How did you build out your network? How did you meet these people to start their businesses and brands? Because I feel like I don't know if this was all planned or if you just went in and it all materialized, but it seems like you took the right steps, did it the right way, in terms of, meeting these people, helping them out and growing them out and getting bigger and bigger projects, and now starting your own because you already have the experience and the network to do so, right? But how did you start meeting these people? How do you start networking with these people and doing your work for them?
So that, like, I started from the most entry level job you can, which is being a bud tender, like at a dispensary. Like I did that for a couple years. I went up the management track. I became like a general manager, operations manager, specializing in operations and compliance. Just sort of studying the actual business and how it operates. And then from there, I started expanding my horizon beyond dispensary work. I worked for cultivation, delivery, got exposed to distribution, and I even worked at an analytical cannabis testing lab, which is a requirement out here in the States. You have to test your cannabis before you put it on shelves. So I tried to work in every sector of cannabis to gain that overall experience of the industry. I didn't want any details to be spared. I wanted to know how each sector ran. So through that, and after doing that, I joined a cannabis consulting firm. So I joined a company that consulted all these different businesses, on a national scale as well as internationally. So after joining that firm, I was able to apply all my prior experiences in the different sectors. And of course, through that, I met people. I would try to join any sort of events or educational forums, seminars. Like I would network as much as I can, but I try to work as much as I can too. Like there's working hard and then there's working smart. So obviously I didn't stay at a company for more than 2 years, but that's sort of the state of the cannabis industry right now. Not a lot of people have maintained a cannabis job at the same spot for over 2-3 years, but that's sort of what I did. I would let my employer know that, hey, I'm planning to work not for your competitor, but at another cannabis sector business, just so I can gain that experience and maybe I can come back and apply that for you. So I've had some cases like that where I picked up experience in a different sector and then brought that experience back to help that specific business expand
Oh
to that
yeah,
new sector.
that's interesting. But
Yeah.
it seems like then it's not necessarily that it was all mandatory for you to do all this work, but you sort
Yeah.
of, because came from passion because you're happy with the industry you're working in, and you just know that this is where you want to be for the rest of your life. Um,
Yeah.
so it is
Like
about
just
really going above
understanding
and
the
beyond.
supply chain.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, go
And
ahead.
understanding all the ins and outs of it. Exactly. No, it's you're fine.
Yeah.
Um, no, but
And you had one more question about the stigma and the taboo, I
yeah,
believe.
that's yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So
oh gosh. Yeah, so of course, you being Jordan or half Jordanian, like
oh
how
yeah.
it is with immigrant communities and especially conservative communities. My family is Indian and Pakistani and they do have Arab roots and they're very yeah, they
Oh no,
were
because
like
your name could be
my
Arabic too. I know that.
yeah,
Maha
exactly.
Haq.
Maha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very Arabic name.
Mhm.
So my family was not in agreement with anything I was doing at first, but it's
So you mean like
like
family is including extended family and
yeah. So like my mom was okay with it, but my aunt, my uncle, my grandma, like they were well, that's
that's
basically
how it
my
goes in these
entire
cultures. Yeah.
family. Yeah, but that like they were not they were more so concerned about the stability of my choices in
Hmm.
to work in the industry. They were concerned about stability and risks. So first it was like, is this even a real thing? And then questions about are you going to get arrested started coming up. So I had to ease their mind and luckily they did, but at the same time it's kind of ironic because cannabis grows wildly, it's indigenous to Pakistan and India, like northern parts of India and certain parts of Pakistan. So it's kind of ironic to hear how stigmatized it is even in their societies and their communities.
Yeah.
So I brought that up to them. I'm like, hey, this is an indigenous plant to the country you were born in. There shouldn't be too much of a problem with it. It's, if anything, this is sort of a good thing, right? Like you guys should explore the potential therapeutic benefits if you guys don't want to see it from a recreational standpoint. So of course, to convince my family, I told them more so the medical components, but I am a recreational consumer. I see no shame in being a recreational
Mm.
consumer. People drink alcohol and consume other substances, and everyone has a substance of choice. And I, of course, like the way cannabis makes me feel, but I also feel like it has some therapeutic benefits as well.
Mhm.
And it's not just limited to THC. People always, connect cannabis to the intoxicating or the psychoactive component of just THC. There's all these different cannabinoids. I think you even said earlier, CBD is something you are more keen on, and even the athletes, they're more keen on CBD and all these other therapeutic non-psychoactive cannabinoids. So there's way more to cannabis than there is to other substances. If there was, there would be an entire industry based on that, and they're but they're all grouped into pharmaceuticals, or they're grouped into like just alcohol. Like alcohol is just a drink. You can't really make anything else out of it. You just have
Oh,
bottles
alcohol's just
of
bad for you.
different
That's all straight up. Yeah.
yeah,
And we all,
exactly. So,
yeah,
and
and
alcohol
then
is
we all
bad
have like,
too.
yeah,
Exactly. And
as in alcohol has no benefits technically.
exactly. So, there's so much to cannabis itself, and that helped me explain to my family and any other people I knew who raised their eyebrows at me when I tell them I am dedicated to working in the space. So, the stigma is always going to be there, but it is gradually going away. With
It is.
more research, more education, acceptance will come.
I understand there's more tolerance even in a country like Jordan where it's just highly illegal.
Yeah.
I've done it there, like let's just admit it. I have done it there. And I didn't used to feel like I wanted to risk it, but the last few
Yeah.
times I've been back, it's happened and I've seen it be available to so many more people and so many more people just daring to simply just to try it, to do it.
Mhm.
Which makes me think either the people are easing up or the law is just turning a blind eye to it now, which is a good sign. I'm
Interesting.
gonna turn down maybe the quality of the webcam if it keeps like,
Yeah.
because I'm with you, but it I'm looking and it seems like it's just breaking up. The video is breaking up. That's all. But yeah, um, no. So what are some of your most surprising findings when it came to your own research that you've done, like things that actually
Oh
surprised you
gosh.
as well?
So I recently just did a research
I know.
project with a medical cannabis recommendation provider. So what that means is there's this company that has doctors available that issue medical recommendations, kind of like a prescription for cannabis. So they have this large database of patients who reported on, what reasons they are seeking cannabis for, like what ailments are they seeking cannabis for. So my team and I, we had access to this database. We conducted a full data analysis and assessment. And
Mm-hmm.
usually on the medical level, patients are seeking cannabis for pain relief. But during the pandemic, patients have been seeking cannabis to achieve happiness. So more so for mental health. So
Mm-hmm.
we've always thought that on the medical level, patients want to feel less pain. They need more. They need more analgesic effects, so they don't need to take opioids, etc. But our report found that the pandemic really depressed a lot of people for obvious reasons,
Oh,
and
that, yeah.
happiness became the number one reason why all these patients were seeking cannabis for. It's a very obvious answer, but there's data to back that up now, that there are that there are patients that are indeed looking to cannabis for mental health, for as a tool for mental health. So, even with CBD, like it's anti-anxiety, on top of
Hmm.
anti-inflammatory, but CBD being used for pain is pretty common, but it's now more common to use it for mental stress and anti-anxiety components and ultimate happiness, basically. So
Hmm.
that was the most recent report I did, and hopefully I'll be presenting it at a couple conferences. I just presented it at the American Chemical Society, but that was the most recent research I did. But before then, I used to work at the UCLA Cannabis Research Initiative, which is a research program dedicated to studying cannabis. They're doing very interesting research out there. They're doing cannabis effect, like sex dependent effects of cannabis. So
Hmm.
how does cannabis affect women as opposed to men? Is there a difference? Because all of us have such a unique endocannabinoid system, our system that
Hmm.
reacts to cannabis. So that's some interesting research over there going on as well. So yeah, but
Well,
the happiness value for cannabis, that was my most recent research project.
that's cool because this mental health is only now really becoming less and less taboo. So,
Mhm.
people are opening up more. People are also people that are using antidepressants and medicines against it are really opening up about the negative effects of that. You know, and wanting to avoid. Like I always think of myself. I also have my mental health issues. I have
Mhm.
anxiety and stuff like that. Um, I would never, if it ever gets to the point that's really bad, I would never go on pills and antidepressants just because I've seen all the
Yeah.
evidence and you know it numbs you. So I would be
Mhm.
a lot more open to like something like cannabis or weed, which is it's proven to help people, and if their testimonials say so, why not believe it? You know.
Yeah.
So I think
Oh,
that's a really
definitely.
cool thing. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to get into the now we can get into this whole government thing as well because of the governmentalization of it. Like if that ever ends up happening, like how do you see it affecting businesses?
So there will, of course, be more regulations. Most businesses might not even be capable of continuing because things will be taken over by the federally sanctioned representatives who would be taking over such businesses. So I don't foresee it being in the favor of like the mom and pop shops, like the small business owner. Like that will be a challenge, but I hope it doesn't turn into that. I know Canada has been following that format. It's federally legal there,
Mm-hmm.
and they have certain restrictions. Like you can't just be a small business owner and decide the next day, hey, I want to pursue a cannabis business. I want to have my own. Like that
Mm-hmm.
possibility is very limited in Canada. So out here, there's already so many people who've taken that route, the mom and pop shop style, small business owners, small craft grows or small dispensary stores. Like that's in a way still thriving because there's no intervention of the government, like you were saying, like the governmental involvement
Mm-hmm.
just yet. So I don't know what will happen. That's something we're all waiting to see unfold, if it will be rescheduled, or rescheduled or federal legalization. So of course, federal legalization is more in our favor than rescheduling, because rescheduling is when the intervention would be I guess at its highest point compared to federal legalization. So, we're waiting and observing.
Mm-hmm.
But cannabis is already being corporatized over here. There's a lot of large multi-state operators. Cannabis has indeed become corporate. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm consulting for one of the largest cannabis MSOs out here in the US, Green Thumb Industries. And, you know, they're also a public company, a publicly traded company. And, you know, they like, there's always the perception of how, you know, corporate cannabis is ruining the space. I don't 100% agree with that. But I do think that it is a good strategy to help mitigate any sort of governmental involvement or intervention. So companies like that, of course, would rise above whatever rescheduling that happens. But you know, we'll see what happens, I guess. But the MSOs are definitely in a good spot and can endure any outcome at this point, as long as they don't screw up.
So, what I see as the positive side of that is, I think, well, after listening to what you just said, is that it sort of legitimizes the business more and provides a
Yeah.
lot of opportunities in that sense, through different ways. But it shouldn't be completely governmentalized and that they have total control over it, because that would definitely kill the
Yeah.
whole industry and the creativity in it. You know?
Right, exactly. So, you know, we want to promote the free market, free trade concept in cannabis, but it's already hard enough to do that. But hopefully it doesn't get harder, because that's
Hmm.
what it kind of sounds like it will be. It will be harder, but you know, I'm in for the run. I'm in for the long haul, and you know, good change will happen eventually. It's inevitable for things to be more open
Hmm.
and like, and of course, you know, I even mentioned it earlier at the beginning of our interview, like, you know, the Netherlands is an example that, you know, the US can only like imagine at this point. You know, I feel like because, you know, we are a larger country, but we have so many differing
Mm.
mindsets and politics here. It's truly like, you know, like one thing or another, like each end of the
Yeah, it's
spectrum.
crazy.
There's no middle ground. And that's why, you know, the seeing some of the formats being practiced in the Netherlands, like specifically the newest sector of cannabis that will be coming out, or that is already out, is the cannabis consumption lounge sector. So you of course have your dispensaries, retail, distribution, delivery, testing lab, manufacturing. Like you have all those sectors that have been existing since the beginning of this space. But licensed legal cannabis consumption lounge cafes, like
That
they were not around here. They were all underground, very speakeasy type, not like Amsterdam where you have a legitimate spot where you can buy cannabis and consume it in a legal safe setting. Like of course, like there were consumption parties that happened out here, you know, they still happen, but being like, for it to have a legal licensed label on it is of course what legitimizes, what destigmatizes the whole practice. So, you know, looking at the cafes in Amsterdam, that's what I'm like hoping is adopted out here in all of our states. You know, a few cities in the larger states are gradually accepting the consumption lounges, but you know, it's a lengthy process, and you
yeah.
know, hopefully it happens. It is happening, but you know, like up to this point there's only been one legal and licensed cannabis cafe, and that was out here in West Hollywood in Los Angeles. My business partner actually used to manage the place,
Hmm.
but you know, it dealt with its own issues. It had many problems. Like
Right.
it feels like we're still not ready to incorporate the cannabis cafe format in the states on a legal level, but it is happening. Policy is changing. Ordinances are being added, so there is
Hmm.
progress with that. But that is what my primary interest in cannabis right now is, besides research and academia, is the cannabis consumption lounge, a consumption area sector of
So
cannabis,
that
because
goes more into the
we have
entertainment
no
aspect of it.
cafes.
It's
Exactly,
it's
the
so
entertainment
crazy.
aspect.
It's so crazy because you have the case study here. If you- for what decades, for many decades, you have the Netherlands as a case study. So
Yeah,
can't you just adopt that?
exactly.
And it's not like, I'm not saying like the whole United States. You know, just certain state. Like what's the deal with Oregon? Haven't they? Oregon has haven't they decriminalized all drugs now? Like that was the
Yes.
thing.
Exactly. Like even like, mushrooms have been,
Mhm.
decriminalized out there, but like when are we going to have the cafes? In Europe, you go around, like you have all these like safe spots to consume at because, like a lot of people you can't smoke in like an apartment, or like the landlord won't let you
Mhm.
consume something, or else you can get in legal trouble. Like you can't smoke at a hotel. Like you need to have a safe spot, a legal spot to consume at. So Oregon, although they did decriminalize those substances, there is yet to be a legitimate cafe or restaurant or area to consume cannabis at.
Mhm.
Like, of course, there's parties. Of course, there's the speakeasies and the private engagements where you can do all the consumption stuff. But like a restaurant, like a cafe, like when you're
Yeah.
when you're in Spain or when you're in Amsterdam, you can walk into like a coffee shop
Yeah, you
and
can eat and
order your
drink. Yeah.
exactly. You can
No
eat
alcohol
and
though.
drink.
That's like that's always the
Yeah,
distinction, and that's probably a good thing that they don't
yeah,
combine them, because I've had a bad experience like that before.
exactly.
It's but there's also this whole like, if you do this one first and that one, like there's this whole
Yeah,
calculation you have to make. But yeah, but you can just order any other non-alcoholic drink you want. You can order your food. You have a good time. There was last time I was at one. There was a karaoke going on, so it's just a fun time. And I don't know if anything, like if you look at the reports of fights happening or whatever. I'm pretty
mm,
sure you have it a lot more in bars, on average, than on in
exactly.
what we call coffee shops, is what they're called here. Yeah.
Yeah, you have more control in a cannabis dominant setting,
And
like
besides, wouldn't you think that, like, for the authorities they would prefer that, because they can monitor it, and you have all the cannabis users in one place, like, let's see.
exactly.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
if that's true. I think that's how it started here. It was more of a it was one way to regulate, to monitor.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope over here like there's more like the issue here right now with the cannabis consumption lounge movement is they're all treating it as like the cigar style lounge. They're not treating it like a proper cafe where you can get food and beverage at, or like a
Mm.
or even water at. So like that's something I'm hoping we can adopt sooner rather than later. Of course, with COVID is subsiding now, so that'll like people are itching to get out. So this would
Mm.
be a very, very positive development, and a way to progress the cannabis industry as a whole is to create these consumption lounges, like, or cafes, have some food with it. Like I said, there's only been one that was legal and that was open, but even then, it dealt with its own issues. So of course, Amsterdam is indeed a case study,
Mhm.
and a very legitimate one that has, like, especially with how long it's been existing there. Hopefully we can be like you guys.
Are you taking any of that research in your pursuit to start these spots here? There, I
Potentially,
mean.
yes. Potentially. So my one of my colleagues, he is actually a retired professor from USC, and he does a lot of research in the Netherlands. He does a lot of social science, substance research, specifically cannabis research in the Netherlands. He said it himself at one point that, of course, like the attitude of the attitude towards cannabis is like way less stigmatized there than it is here, and
Mhm.
the patterns, behaviors, etc. are like far more desirable. That like the reception for cannabis is far more positive in the Netherlands than it is here. So hopefully, the more I get to work with him. His name's Dr. Charles Kaplan. He spent a great deal of time in the Netherlands, and I believe he did a doctorate out there as well. One of his research topics focused on the red light district
Mm.
and drug consumption, but how some of the women working in the red light district, how some of them differed from each other based on their drug of choice. So the ones
Oh,
who were,
okay.
of course, Yeah, so the ones who were consuming cannabis had a far different experience and dealt with less issues, I guess, than those women who were taking harder drugs. So there's a lot of potential research tie-ins with cannabis in the Netherlands versus America. So hopefully we'll see what happens. Of course, with me being interested in working in the consumption lounge sector, I guess like patterns or behaviors, consumption behaviors is something I'm very interested in pursuing. I personally like to dab concentrates, and I'm very interested in seeing like dab, like post dab behavior, pre-dabbing behavior, because everyone can, when you smoke a joint, it's very similar to a cigarette, or if you're smoking a bong, like it's flower product, but when you have concentrate, you have a stronger version of cannabis. How does that does it impair judgment and cognition more than flower? Are you do you feel more intoxicated? How do you act? Are there any harms with like dabbing? So just that specifically is very interesting to me.
Cool. Yeah, it's interesting, and the thing about why I find what's so complicated about getting changing policy maybe in the States, aside from the whole it is a two-party system, I think, in the end. What makes it complicated, why it's so easy here. Because even like, I don't know if when you vote over there, do you get beforehand this whole like sort of test that gives your like your political what do you say, your political map, sort of like because I mean what we have here is we have so many different political parties and nobody knows what to vote on, so you do these tests and it shows you which ones you're closest to. You're like 60% this party, 60% that, and one of the questions here this year, like it was I think two questions even just about this, like should we legalize the procurement of the herb. Because the weird thing about the Netherlands is, as much as people think it's open and it's legalized, it's not actually legalized. It's decriminalized.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, coffee shops are allowed to the cannabis bars are allowed to sell, but the way that they acquire it, that's illegal still. So there's this whole loophole. Like they actually have their own dealers as well that sneak into the back door and give them the product that they are allowed to sell.
Yeah.
So
no,
even
but
here, and
it's very interesting.
Yeah, and about the two-party system thing, several years ago, when was it decriminalized in Canada? Remember?
Decriminalized where?
In Canada?
In Canada. So they became
2018?
federally legal they became federally legal then. Yeah.
Yeah, because then I was like right before when they announced, okay, it was gonna happen. Right before I invested in this company called Aurora Cannabis, and I had it was a good price. I asked my asset manager like, hey, when it drops under a certain amount, email me and we'll buy. Okay, we did it, and then it got legalized, and then the whole stock crashed completely.
Yeah.
And okay, I was like, whatever, I'll just wait I waited for years and years until I noticed my friend who was investing on this app had like the Auroras, and I saw it on his phone like once to watch. And I said, wait, what's the deal with that, man? Because I have like $1,000 in this, you know? And he says, yeah, there's ones to watch. This one is booming right now. And I said, what? Because I had left it for a while. And it was up from like being down to $3 a share to like 25 at some point all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I bought it at 9. And then I read, it turns out it's the fact that Joe Biden won, that the Democrats won, that just instantly opened the market again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So like that's why like I'm personally like, of course with cannabis stocks there's so much potential, but I am personally concerned about like the risks and the instability behind it too, because just like you said, like something happens in the political world, it's either red or blue, and something happens between red or blue, there's an impact on the stock market. Exactly. And it like particularly what's actually interesting is what I'm observing is like mergers that are going on. So Afria and Altria, they are now merged.
Hmm.
That was Marlboro, the tobacco company. They just bought into a cannabis company. So
Oh,
now they are massive. So
interesting.
yeah, Altria. Um,
Yeah.
and then there's Tilray, there's Kronos, there's all these different cannabis stocks out there, but just so heavily dependent on the political I guess environment. Whatever happens with politics, it heavily impacts it compared to even other industries. It impacts the cannabis stocks a lot more than than I guess like tech or
Hmm.
even big pharma.
Yeah. Very
So
volatile.
yeah, very
No,
volatile. Exactly.
I so just in terms of doing business in general, I'm very much of the belief that you have to collaborate instead of compete. It's good to be competitive, but still, it's a
Yeah.
lot better, especially when
Community
you're
over
smaller.
competition.
Yeah, no, exactly. I say collaborate, don't compete. Like that's my whole thing, because then you join forces and stuff. And I think this is one of the big industries where that has to be the case. I think because
Yeah,
what's the point of separating, splitting up when you're already being scrutinized, actually, essentially, and
exactly.
there's actually one of the submitted questions here that kind of goes into that. So I'll just wait for that one. Um, yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna ask you like, what is your the link between? Do you ever want to get into link music and cannabis maybe in the kind of work you're doing?
So, what's interesting is there's so many restrictions in advertising cannabis that a lot of people are now looking to music to help advertise cannabis. So,
Hmm.
personally, in terms of music, my fiance and I, we like to do the turntables, mix music on the turntables. We have like a whole vinyl shelf over there. So I'm
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, very passionate about music. And one of my goals, like with the consumption lounge scene, I want to have a music venue with an amazing sound system and allow cannabis consumption, because cannabis and music work so well together.
Yeah.
But also on a legal level, you can't advertise cannabis on like Facebook or even Instagram. It's like accounts are being shut down left and right, but
Yeah.
there's so much advertising potential and marketing potential through music. So all these different rappers, musicians, they're getting into cannabis or have been in cannabis for so long. Like, for example, this weekend, actually, I'm going to Las Vegas to attend a new dispensary opening, Cookies, which is now co-owned by Green Thumb Industries, who I'm consulting for.
Oh, the
And,
place is called Cookies,
yeah, and the
because
place
Cookies
is
is
called
also
Cookies.
a strand that we have here. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this big brand called Cookies, and it's owned or it's founded by Burner. He's a rapper. And, he has been able to create a not even a national, but an international franchise. Like there's a Cookies clothing store with the same cannabis brand clothing store in
Mm.
Spain now. So he was able to use music as a means of advertising and marketing and reaching the masses, because no matter how much you spend on advertising, you're not going to get the same value as you would if you were to do it through another guise, and another guise
No.
being music. So music has even Snoop Dogg, like he has a company called Mary Jane. It is and he's also part of there's also a venture capital firm. I'm forgetting the name of it.
Hmm.
I'm forgetting the name of it. But like he's able to promote his products, his services through his music, more or less. Even
And Mike
his
Tyson with the
VC.
Tyson Ranch.
Oh, exactly. So like
Yeah.
these celebrity endorsed brands, of course, are coming up, but it's not just the celebrities who are getting in, it's their business partners who know that there's value in the celebrity endorsement, celebrity forward marketing, but specifically music. Music just ties in with cannabis so well. It is a seamless fit, and you have all these people who are trying to use, music as a way to advertise their products or music videos. They're trying to, like in some of the music videos, they put the Beats by Dre, in some of the shots, but now they're doing a couple cannabis products here and there. You might not notice it at first glance, but that's the move. Or you have like typically in some music videos, you got like a bottle of Ciroc somewhere, Diddy is always trying
Just
to
name
put a
drops
bottle
all
of
the time
Ciroc.
as well. The Ciroc.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, now you got rappers talking about smoking on cookie, like
Mm.
just like you said, it's also a strain. Like, there's so much potential with advertising and marketing through, of course, it's a given. It's a very obvious statement, but there's restrictions otherwise. Like there's like the other avenues are almost blocked. It's almost as if you have to go through this
People always find a
entertainment-esque
way to market. I mean,
route.
if it's
Yeah.
such a something they have a very deep personal interest in and are invested in, it's also not like you have to. It's not like you can pay someone to advertise it if they're not a user or in with it. It's like
Yeah.
you're gonna always go above and beyond because it's something that you personally think is part of your culture, and by one way or another, you're gonna market it. You're gonna use it.
Exactly. Yeah, like back like most commonly like you had billboards, but now the state is putting restrictions on billboards that advertise cannabis. So of course people are getting creative, and truly I know music is like probably going to be the number one format for advertising and marketing cannabis. Like it worked for alcohol. I like it's a seamless fit for cannabis.
And there's one example here. There's a place. What's it called? Barney's. I don't know if it's called Barney's. Whatever. It was like more Irish pub like, but they
Uh-huh,
sell
uh-huh.
Pineapple Express. So, and that's what they're now famous for. Like I went there. I was like, oh, because the movie. So
Yeah,
they sell what they claim is the strand, and I haven't seen it
Oh,
anywhere
that's great.
else. So they put a patent on it. So it's like pop culture and cannabis. That's the way to promote. But that's the way. I was gonna say, but this is gonna sound bad as well because the tobacco companies get a bad rap always, and the lobbyists and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But if they get involved here, they're gonna use their tactics to grow out this industry. And that's where they're gonna put their money now with all the restrictions going on cigarettes and stuff.
Exactly.
I don't know how
Yeah.
how is it in the States with cigarettes, by the way, because here they changed all packages are the same color now of
Ooh,
all
yeah, no,
brands.
so like all of like the convenience store pharmacies cannot sell tobacco anymore. So it has to be a gas
Oh,
station or a true convenience store without a pharmacy. So yeah, like there's a lot more restrictions on tobacco now. It also used to be 18 and up before, now it's 21. Same age as
oh,
alcohol now. So, about time, like it probably should have been like that before, but yes,
yeah. I
more
mean,
and more restrictions. And then another development in tobacco is you can't, there's restrictions on menthol in tobacco now. This is a new development that's
is
like,
what's the reason?
yeah, like it
Because I
just
mean,
happened.
I don't like them anyway, and they give me. I feel like they give me a headache too. The menthols.
Yeah. So like with menthol, it like well, one of the like some of the reasons were it's appealing to children, and second,
Oh,
there's
okay, yeah.
also there's also a racial, I guess, inequitable racial consumption rate. So a lot of black and brown individuals choose menthol over, I guess, white people. So a majority of tobacco smokers that are black and brown, I believe it was a very high rate, like around 80% of them use menthol. So,
Isn't that strange?
yeah,
Like, there's so
yeah,
many small, tiny little researches you can do about, because I know in the Middle East as well, there's uh, a lot of people are now, shitting on people that smoke the cigarettes with the brown filter. They say those
uh-huh.
are old man cigarettes, so everyone's going for the brands that have the white one. So that's what the younger generation
Oh,
is going
wow.
for now. There's all these
Yeah,
little things that don't make sense. That
yeah.
and I guess it's social pressure. I don't know. Maybe in those communities, like somewhere, someone started the trend, and they're like, you're not one of us if you don't smoke these menthols. But those are all like
Oh,
little
yeah,
research you could do. But
exactly.
anyway,
Yeah.
we're deviating from the point. The the maybe this all these restrictions on tobacco are finally actually having a big effect on these companies, and they're trying to put their money elsewhere, but using their
Yeah.
expertise and the struggles they had to go through to push their tobacco could be beneficial for, as I said, the cannabis industry. And in the end, the cannabis has a lot of benefits.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, just seeing like the merger of like big tobacco with cannabis companies, like it's very interesting. Like I feel like those
Hmm.
cannabis or the tobacco companies know their inevitable decline. Like all these restrictions are going to, of course, decline the tobacco industry. But I
Hmm.
think in a way, it's interesting to see them merge with the cannabis companies for sure. Like I do see potential in that. But you also have alcohol companies trying to get in on the action as well. So
Oh
I
yeah.
know that, yeah, all these different industries are now seeing potential, and they're trying to get in before it's too late. So I think that's a wise decision. Instead of perpetuating harmful substances, they want to join the good side now. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I want to try to have a little foot in the shisha industry. The the what do you call it? It's the water pipe, the
Oh,
flavored
hookah?
the Arabic, the hookah. Yeah, exactly, the hookah is
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah, the flavored one. Yeah, and it's funny there because we're trying to sell to. I mean, my family has a small factory in Jordan, and we create
Oh.
other brands for other companies as well. Trying to get it
Oh,
to
so you
Europe,
you create the tobacco like
the
oh,
molasses,
nice.
and any
Molasses,
flavor you
yeah.
want. Like we can create. We've done a Red Bull. We've the Sex on the Beach cocktail. We have the
Nice.
just so many different ones. But now because of the European restrictions, so you're not allowed to even advertise the taste. So if it's like you have the fruit flavors and stuff, you're not allowed to advertise those. Maybe that's because kids would otherwise like sort of
Yeah.
start using it and smoking it. But now the bars are having their own little marketing schemes where they like market a cocktail and or like and then have the shisha next to it, like so it's like you can have this cocktail
Interesting.
with this
Yeah, like
hookah,
a
so
pairing.
yeah, the pairing. So I don't know.
Interesting.
I think
Wow.
we can all they can all benefit from each other. Like
No,
yeah,
definitely.
it's
That's
interesting.
that's pretty that's pretty interesting too, because what's even like on the cannabis end, there's a strain called Skittles that's
Hmm.
very popular right now. And the candy company Skittles actually just like issued a cease and desist because their name is trademarked, and they stopped that company, the cannabis company who was advertising Skittles with the Z, to not like they're not allowed to advertise as such anymore. So
Yeah.
very interesting to see that. And they're not the only cannabis, or they're not the only large company. Skittles is not the only large company that is issuing CNDs to these cannabis companies, because there's so many strains that are named after like all these fruits and candies and
Hmm. Bubble
child
gum you have.
yeah, like
Yeah.
child enticing terms. But I don't think they're enticing to children at all, but like the government, like the policymakers think it is. And but anyways, yeah, like
Eh.
that's a pretty interesting concept though, with the shisha, like having the drink next to, like, it's interesting how you could call drinks by their flavor names and make it sound all like strawberry lemon drop or something, like
People
have
always
these
find
cute
yeah.
names.
People
Yeah.
always find the
But
loophole. If you have good
yeah.
marketers, there's always gonna be that next thing. Like out of the box, there's always gonna be the next out of the box, out of the box.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Anyway,
No,
I
for
think we
sure.
should get into some of the fan submissions. One of them's from my dad,
Oh,
actually,
okay.
as well, because he's into. We'll get to that as the last one, I think. But my father is into. Actually, he just studied. He has nothing to do with this, but he's always regretted not becoming a doctor,
Uh-huh.
and he's never ever done work to. He only realized it like when it was way too late that he wanted that. That was his passion. So he's studied and just gotten straight A's in his alternative medicine. He's now licensed alternative medicine doctor, and that made him
Ooh,
very tolerant towards cannabis. He's a big fan of like at least the
nice.
benefits of it in CBD. So, we'll get to his
That's
question
awesome.
first. He's just asking if you do any giveaways. I guess he wants to try
any
some products.
any giveaways? Yeah, no, I do giveaways sometimes. Shipping it to Amsterdam might be hard.
Jordan, even worse.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but for like hemp products,
Hmm.
I can see what's up. I can see what's up. But yeah,
Okay,
I'll check.
I'll let you know that. What's the next? Oh, let me see. Um, yeah, he says this question: is the market super competitive, and how do you navigate that?
The market is competitive, yes. And how do you navigate it? Oh gosh, just really at this point, knowing the right people or making people know who you are. But yes, it is very, very competitive. I would say right now, cultivation is the most competitive. There's so many growers out there, and standing out as a grower is very, very difficult because people are now getting acres upon acres of land. So like the small guy who's growing in an indoor small, 2,000 square foot facility is nothing compared to acres. But if you know the right people and if you know how to, do your branding and have some great genetics, then it wouldn't be as you would be you'd be great at competing. But it is very competitive. So just know the right people and the right approaches to getting people to know you.
Nice. And is how do you farm the weed? Because in the Netherlands, the rules on that are shady. It says, yeah, because as I said, like as I explained, so procuring it and getting it is illegal, but selling it is
Yeah.
okay. So how is it over there?
Oh man. So, just like I said, there's a lot of cultivators.
Yeah.
In California alone, there's hundreds of cultivators, and there's three types of, like, I guess, grows you can say. You have indoor, you have outdoor, and then you have greenhouse, which is a little bit of a hybrid of both. So, with your outdoor and greenhouse grows, you're not going to get like the high THC percentage, but it is economical and you're creating volume. And most of the times is used as byproduct too, for manufacturing vapes or making concentrates or even making oil for edibles. But how do you grow? The way to do it out here is you got to get a license from your state. You have to apply for that. You have to get a land use permit. You have to go through all
But
of
hey,
the
at least you have
regulatory
that.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
because
We
I
do
don't think
have
we
it though.
do. Yeah, like that's
Yeah.
we just need to
And
combine. We
we
need to
also
combine the positives from both countries. Like, that's what it is.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's even hemp farming, and hemp farming
Hmm.
can be done in any state because hemp is federally legal. So if you wanted
Yeah.
to cultivate some high CBD content strains, you can through cultivating hemp. And there is a process, there's a farm bill where hemp production, cultivation and production is within that, and that was introduced in 2018. So that can be done in any state, hemp cultivation.
So do you think this is this the big broad step, the big step you to start convincing policymakers to change policies, like to show all the different um, substances that you can extract from the plant, essentially? Because as you said, like way in the beginning, everyone, I'm pretty sure it's just the fact that it gets you high is the whole main issue always with people, especially also in religious groups, conservative groups, But
Yeah.
that's the THC. Remove that, there's
Yeah,
all these other ones that you can take. Yeah. So is that the first step
exactly.
to try to convince policymakers? This is my own
So
question. Yeah.
no, but if you wanted to have a legal cultivation operation, you don't have to convince your policymaker. You just apply for a license. You have to go through all this paperwork, licensing
Mhm.
paperwork. You have to make sure the land that you're going to grow on or the facility you're going to grow in is in a zoned area. So like the policymakers have already implemented a process. So that's
But I mean,
like
like more
at least.
states where it's illegal still, or
Oh,
not
where states
as
it's
accepted.
illegal?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So in states where it is illegal, yes, you talk to the policymakers. You get into law, like you get with a lobbyist. You either lobby
Mhm.
yourself, talk and go to city council meetings, go to mayor meetings, like go to all these go to the policymaker. Yeah. Like start petitioning for to allow grows to happen. Yeah. Going through that process is very, very
Of like
lengthy.
convincing them of all
Um,
the other benefits aside from that,
Yeah.
the recreational one. Yeah.
Yeah, like you
Yeah.
would talk about how it could benefit economically, how much in taxes you can bring in. That's kind of how it advanced in California and other states is the taxes that will be brought into the state
Mm.
and the city,
Oh
like
yeah, when they see
how much
money, they see
economic.
money. They want to be involved. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. But that's the part of the negative part of cannabis, legal cannabis out here is it's heavily taxed. So if you
Mm.
were to visit a dispensary out here, you would be taxed upwards of 30 to 35% on top of what you're paying.
Oh
So
my
30
god.
to
Yeah.
35%
Ah yeah. Wait.
tax
Yeah.
on
You
your,
have.
yeah.
It's different there. Yeah, because you just in general in the states, I think you still have to add tax to the prices you
Yeah,
pay,
you got
right? But here
sales
it's all
tax.
included when you see it on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in California, your sales tax is about 9 or 10%, which is the highest out of all the states. But then you have an additional, 30% on that, which is your cannabis
So
tax.
wild.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so like it's atrocious. Like you're paying ultimately like a half of what you like of the product that you just bought. So it is what convinces policymakers. If you were to lobby for cultivation in whatever city you're in, you would go to the policymakers and say, hey, you can tax us this much. And they will be very keen on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. So I know I'm wondering how much time do you have, by the way? So, like, I
Oh.
took you over, but if you have time, like, there's still a couple of things to go over. Like,
Are there more questions?
no, so there's two more, but one of them you kind of already really
Oh, okay.
answered in the interview. It's like there's a question like, well, how do you market it in Cali? But we went over the marketing
Yeah.
part. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was good. Yeah, one of them is what's your favorite high movie?
What's my favorite high movie? Oh
Yeah.
gosh. Oh man. I have a lot of favorite high movies. Oh, well, if I had to watch something that would just like if I was couch locked for like 3 hours, I love Interstellar. I don't know why. Like with Matthew McConaughey,
Aye,
I
yeah,
love that
yeah.
movie.
So
It's
that's
such a
yeah
good
crazy. It's
movie.
not a typical. It's not a typical high
Yeah.
movie. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Oh,
I would
yeah.
like, yeah, I love watching. I love watching that when I'm high. But I also like watching the funny movies as well. You mentioned Pineapple Express earlier. It's such a cliche, but it's such a classic at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think those are my favorite movies I'd watch
Oh, you
while
should
high.
try. I don't know if you're a Coen Brothers fan. The
Wait,
directors,
what?
the Coen Brothers, the directors.
Uh-huh,
So you
uh-huh.
have Burn After Reading.
They have what after what? Sorry,
Burn
your
After
voice is
Reading.
breaking. Ooh, I have not watched that.
Oh my god, you gotta watch it.
I
It's
need to
it's
watch it. I have to
surprise
watch it.
like for someone who's really into movies as well. Like people are surprised it's in my top 5 of all time. For some reason, it's just the perfection of dark humor. And like I'd already watched it several times before, but then the one time I watched it high with a couple of friends, it was the best time ever. It was the funniest. Everything was hilarious. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch it soon.
Seriously, if it's gonna be your first time watching it, that'll be a great experience. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it'll be my
Yeah,
first. Okay, I will remember and take
and watch
note
it
of
with your
that. I will
fiance
let you
because
know
it's
how.
it's better with someone else as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, I will definitely do that. No, that's awesome. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
There's
are we?
there's one more question, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
when did you know there's a legitimate career in this?
There's legit. Wait, when did
When
I find out what
that there is a legitimate career in this?
a legitimate cure in this?
A career.
Oh, career. Sorry, your
Yeah.
voice is breaking up,
No
Nick.
worries.
I'm
No worries.
sorry. So I found out that I can get a legitimate career out of this when I when I started when I started the Canna Club. I think that's
Hmm.
when people started taking me seriously. They're like, like you're not just working or managing a dispensary. You're not just setting up operations for a delivery. Like you're working heavily in the supply chain. That's
Mhm.
when I realized that, I was like, wow, like there are so many of these other people who are also interested in what I do. So this is a career, I guess. This is a career pathway that younger people are kind of looking up to. So really starting Canna Club is when validated all the past work that I did. Like I didn't see it as that. I just saw it as like a gig that I did, even though I didn't treat it like a gig, but I thought others would perceive it as a gig.
Like a
But after
bartending job,
starting,
you thought?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like a bartending job, or literally that's what I thought a budtending job was like a bartender. But when I started Canna Club, that's when so many people were like, this is what I want to do in my future. And then even professors were like, I want to research this. Can you tell me more? So that's when I found out, like, okay, I think I have a very long like a future in this industry, and this will be my
Um,
career.
Once a
Yeah.
professor asks you to do something, then it's like, yes, okay, I think I
Yeah.
found something. I got something
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, sorry, but we're already like way. Thanks a lot for
Oh,
like
I
even
know.
staying over
Oh,
time. Like because there's so much more to talk about. But
oh man.
I guess we can bring you back any other time as well. Like in the future, it would be great to have you on
Oh,
because there's this whole
yeah.
discussion about the prison system and people that are still in
Oh,
prison
yeah.
for like in states where it's legal now that are in prison for it. And as you said, like in the beginning, you grazed over it with how it was an excuse to emancipate black and brown people. So that's a whole discussion that I would actually like to
Oh,
have
your
as well.
voice.
But yeah,
Oh,
no,
sorry, your voice
that's
broke
yeah,
up
no
again.
worries. And next time I'll
But
be
yeah.
hooked up on the other Wi-Fi as well.
No, that's
The only thing
awesome.
is
I
like the
am.
shitty thing is like I have to reset the whole router for that one to show up again, and then we have to redo the
It's all good.
call again. Yeah.
It's all good, but I am honored to be the first cannabis guest here. I hope
Mhm.
you have more, and I would love to help you find more too. I'm glad we've connected. This has been such a great opportunity, and I hope to come to Amsterdam someday
Same,
soon.
no, for sure. You're always welcome, and we can always brainstorm things over there because
That's awesome.
I'm interested in just exploring the industry as well, and just
Yeah.
giving my contribution, however necessary, because I see it as it's just a booming business, an interesting one, and I'm in the right spot. I feel to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you definitely are. Well, thank you
But if I
so
would
much,
ever want to do
Nick.
anything, I would need people like
Yeah.
you. So yeah,
Oh, of
so
course.
always
No,
open
you
to help.
That's awesome. Well, you're more than welcome to come to LA if you ever want
Ugh,
to
I
understand
wish.
the cannabis
Yeah.
space even more. But I'm happy to have connected with you. And yeah, here's to more cannabis content on Air FM.
Hey, for sure. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will be happy.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's awesome. All
I
right.
know.
So,
Have a great week, and seriously,
oh,
good luck with everything you're doing. We'll
oh,
keep an eye out.
thank you so much, Nick. We'll talk soon.